Go.
Hello, hello, hello. This is Corey Thompson from Dice Tower Dish and Above Board TV.
And this is the Podfather of gaming, Stephen Bonacore. You are listening to Board Games Insider, episode 327. We're recording this on July 20th, 2024. Board Games Insider is proud to be powered by Board Game Geek. Corey Thompson. Now, this is a visual thing. So those people who are listening to the podcast will not be able to appreciate this. Though maybe you'll go and check out the Podfather Gaming YouTube channel so you can see what I'm about to say. Corey Thompson lost 20 years of his life. He went from looking to be about 80 years old to only 60 years old. So
Thank you. Thank you.
Corey has no beard of that big bushy ass beard and no
I
from that down to the middle of his back, long hair he had. You look
it's
very good.
come on, it's almost 110 degrees here and it's been that for like a week. So I couldn't take it anymore. Yeah.
How
I
long
shaved and I got rid of all the hair.
how long have I been telling you that maybe you need to come into like the 21st century, realize that you are in your 50s and you're not in your 20s anymore. You need to upgrade that look a little bit. And you do. You do. I don't like to say great things about you, but you do look very good. I'm going to tell you that from the bottom of my heart. You're a
I look
sexy
like a
man.
12. I look like a 12-year-old.
You're a sexy man, and I would like to go out with you. Would you go out with me on a date at Gen Con? Oh, you're not going to be at Gen Con.
I think I can do better.
Yeah, you can definitely do. You could do better than that. Corey,
Uh,
besides the new
yeah.
coif and the lack of hair, please tell us what's happening in the Corey Thompson above board world.
I'm always surprised how much people just get shocked by the hair thing. It's pure laziness when I don't do it, and it's a brief moment of excitement when I do. So I am up in the Sacramento area. I'm bouncing all over the place, but tomorrow I'm actually driving down to LA, filming more of our Dungeons and Dragons campaign that's going on, which we're calling Dungeon Call. So
Oh,
this is a world and campaign created by Travis Oates. He's DMing. We have special guests, Becca Scott, and it's so cool. Everybody just absolutely loves doing this. Everybody's getting into their characters, into their roles. It's getting really exciting. While we're down there, we're probably going to film some accessory stuff for the B video. I hope that B video comes out soon. It was, again, just an experience of a lifetime. It was so amazing. Um,
that just the little bits that I've seen already look so amazing, my friend. Wow.
it was surreal. Uh,
Hey,
After LA,
you need an NPC in the D&D game though, right? You need an NPC to show up once in a while.
maybe
Maybe you can
it's.
have
I'll
me.
talk to the DM. I know people.
You know a guy? All right.
I
Good.
know a guy.
All right.
Then I got a last minute invite to go to Comic-Con. So I'm already going to be in LA. It's another 2 hours down to San Diego. So I think I'm going to be attending Comic-Con on a last minute decision. I don't know if this is a good idea or a bad idea. Oh, it's going to be so crowded, but there's going to
I've
be
never been.
so many cool people and parties.
And this is of course Comic-Con San Diego, the big one, right? So
Yep, the
that's
big one, San Diego Comic-Con.
can't wait.
The other big news out here, so Dice Tower Dish is back up and running after a couple years of complete laziness and apathy on my part, entirely on my part. No, it's been so busy that something had to take back seat, and Dice Tower Dish, I just haven't worked on it in a long time. So it's kind of fortuitous to announce it here, but the first two episodes have dropped of an interview I did with one Ignacy Chebicek.
Really?
And this interview was done at Dice Tower East 2022. So it's interesting to take this little step back in time. But at the same time, Ignacy tells the most amazing stories about the birth of board gaming and role-playing games in Poland right after the fall of communism.
Right.
So Ignacy basically created the industry in Poland around 91, 92, 93, somewhere in there. And the stories are just amazing. So I'm having a lot of fun putting that up. It's dicetowerdish.com. It's a text only, read it, interview with designers uh, over dinner.
With the
What's
new
also fun.
wait, with the new situation that you have, maybe you should rebrand to like Board Games Insider Dish or Meeple Trademark Dish.
Oh,
I
I got to
like
talk to the guys who know the Meeple
I think
trademark.
I think either one of those, but Board Games Insider Dish. Let's not like push the envelope. Go ahead.
Uh, but what I found really interesting, I was listening to the audio from this dinner conversation, and in the middle of it, Ignacy's phone rings, and there is a very loud, extremely Italian voice on the other end of Ignacy's phone that I can clearly hear on the audio recording. So
It's me.
it's you. You called during the interview,
Why?
and it was really, and I could transcribe it perfectly because I could hear you through Ignacy's phone on my recorder
I
of the dinner.
I don't think I've spoken to him on the phone more than 3 times in my life. So I don't. It's kind of funny that it would be the moment you were having a dinner with him.
Oh, it was hysterical.
All right.
So it'll all come out soon. And
Good.
then a quick sad note, and I think I brought it up before. My favorite winery in Napa Valley, one of the last family-owned wineries in Napa Valley, Madrigal Wines, owned by Chris Madrigal, Madrigal family, has sold and closed. It was bought by Jason Woodbridge of 100 Acre for a new Fortunate Sons series of wines, but end of an era. Madrigal is gone. Madrigal is no more.
How many bottles did you buy in their closeout? Ish.
A lot.
Three
Quite a
fig
lot.
at least three figures of
Let's say
bottles.
hundreds. Let's say
Hundreds
hundreds.
of bottles in his wine cellar now, which is an actual wine cellar. I've been in there. It's nice and cold. It's beautiful. All right,
It's true.
over here at the Podfather of Gaming, as you could see, or for those who are watching, I'm in some odd bedroom here, in a undisclosed location in Northeast Pennsylvania. I'm on an annual old buddies trip. We call it Phoenicia. The reason we call it that is because we used to do this in Phoenicia, New York, but that was when we had access to a property up there, and now we have to travel from all kinds of places, right? I moved to Florida. Another one of the guys is in Illinois, and the other ones live in the general New York City general area. So we all travel over to here to a buddy's house. He has a second house here, like a summer house, and we're having this great time. And most of what we do is like, well, maybe eat and drink too much, but we play instruments and we jam and we do these, exotic recordings, because one of the guys has to have everything perfect, so we overdub, and it's a pain in the ass the amount of singing I have to do, but we do it and we have a great time doing that. So this is my old buddies trip that we do every year. Next week, I want to see some of you, and I know that some of you will be there, at the WBC, one of the oldest running conventions in North America, World Board Gaming Championships in Seven Springs, Pennsylvania. So I'll be going from the northeast of Pennsylvania to the southwest of Pennsylvania, and I'll be with my buddy
Wow.
Chad, who's a big listener of the podcast, and I'll see. There's a lot of people there. Tom McCory, who's a big fan of the show. Tom, can't wait to hang out with you. Danique, who wants me to, I'm her team member for Pitch Car. Can't wait to see everybody there. It is a fun week of basically open gaming. I might get into the War of the Ring tournament just to play and have some fun there. A couple of quick shout outs. I'm going to do the Spielworks shout out again because it's still appropriate, and we love Uli Blenneman from Spielworks. Go over to gamefound.com and check out Epos. Epos is a game in the Gentes world.
Yeah, I love
Really,
Gentes. Such a cool classic.
right. Never played Epos, of course, because this is brand new, but Gentes is a classic, and this is in that world. So check out Epos, a Gentes game, on GameFound by
Yeah.
Spielworks. And the final little thing I'll just mention is that the Play to Z Kickstarter for 23 knives is going to be August 22nd. It got pushed back a little bit for various
That's
reasons.
my birthday.
August 22nd, Corey's birthday. So for Corey's birthday, you all have to promise us that you'll
Yes.
go to Kickstarter and check out 23 Knives by Play to Z. Will you support Caesar? Will you be against Caesar, or will you be an opportunist? And that's it. It's called social manipulation, sort of a new genre. I think you're going to like it if you like anything about that kind of social deduction and social hidden trader type stuff. It's going to be something like that. In the meantime, lots of news. Let's get to the event deck. All right, Corey. So the first thing we have here is from our friends over at Board Game Wire, and it's about Asmodee. And Asmodee is going to
Yeah.
be giving some grant money. Is that right? To do board game
It's
research?
it's really an interesting story. There is a company, group, division, whatever you want to call it, Game in Lab, that was originally created by Asmodee and others in 2018. And this group is going to be giving academic researchers grants of up to 20,000 euros for board game related projects. So Game in Lab looks to promote the valorization and recognition of board games as a generator of societal value. So this is definitely more in academia. The current call for projects is open until September 6th. Special areas of expertise that they're looking for are sustainability and justice, 50 years of D&D, health, people, and planet, and cultural heritage. So in the past, Game and Lab has provided funding to 29 research projects and 3 PhD candidates. This is since its creation. By the way, it was created as a joint effort between Asmodee and a French nonprofit group called Innovation Factory. Just to call out a couple previous winners, Leah Martinez has researched the effect of playing board games on cognitive functions with Dr. Philippe Robert, who published clinical recommendations on the use of board games for people with neurocognitive disorders. Dr. Melissa Rogerson in Australia conducted 2 studies with help from Game and Lab and published articles on the use and appreciation of digital tools in modern board games. So you can see this is more of an academic bent, researching how board games can be used or what impact they have on society. Being an academic, I found this really fascinating that these grants were available out there. The stories from Board Game Wire, if anybody is interested in applying, there is a link on the Board Game Wire story for the application process.
So because you're so long-winded, I took that amount of time and I actually texted a very good friend of mine who is in academia. She's a professor at University of Maryland, I believe. And I said, "Hey, look at this." And she's done board game research in the past. So wow, that is really cool that they're going to give it out to actual academia now. I think that's a really, really, really nice thing for a company like Asmodee to be able to do and give out some research grant money. Love this next story, man. This is one that has come up. This is not the first time that this convention has happened, but this is a convention in Africa, the African Board Games Convention, ABCon 2024.
It's been going on since 2016. So ABCon, the African Board Game Convention, has been going on since 2016, and there's currently a Kickstarter funding ABCon, both to bring notable American designers out to ABCon and to try to bring the ABCon designers to the US and to get this convention running as a whole. I think this is really an important project worth funding. Africa is a burgeoning source of board games. The number of designers, the number of publishers have just gone up exponentially. I do have to do a shout out. One of the main reasons that Africa has become such a hotbed of board game design is one particular company, Nibcard, Nibcard, who is arguably, I'm going to say, the first big African publisher, Nigerian, and they have done so much work to help designers in Nigeria and to help publishers in Nigeria and just to bring this to the forefront. So right now on Kickstarter, ABCon is going on, and I believe it's going on through August 15th.
Very worthy thing to back, to donate to. Back when they first ran a Kickstarter for this, one of the stretch goals was to get Eric Lang to go over. Eric
Yeah,
had agreed to that. And I think that was the COVID year, and I'm not sure about that. So he ended up not being able to go or something like that. But this is another really great idea to take a market that obviously has got millions and millions of people and to try to just expand it by, with a little help from us who have a lot more in the West. And if we can get a little bit money out there to this AB con, they can expand themselves and hopefully grow this market for designers, for gamers out there. So I think that's great.
yeah. Yeah, in 2021, Eric Lang and Tanya Thompson from Hasbro had participated virtually,
Right.
again, travel and COVID. And designer Daniela Tascini had attended in 2022.
There you go. So the next one is also from our friends over at Board Game Wire, and there's a link on ICV2 as well for this, and I'll go for the shorter link on ICV2 just to make it more concise. But Hasbro has named their new Wizards of the Coast president, and it's another executive from the video game industry. Hasbro's named longtime video game executive John Haidt as president of its Wizards of the Coast and digital gaming division, continuing its string of top executives without tabletop game experience. Haidt comes to the role after 12 years at Blizzard Entertainment, where he oversaw all game development and operations for the World of Warcraft games and served on Blizzard's executive leadership team. In his 30 plus years in the video game business, Haidt also spent time at Sony, Atari, Electronic Arts, and the 3DO company. So this became necessary due to Cynthia Williams resigning from this position on quite short notice. As we reported, it was interesting. She gave 11 days, that number seems to stick in my head, notice, which you normally don't do in a very senior position. So we read some things into that, or it was nothing, it just had to go. And that was back in April. So it was a very, it was not too long ago that happened, but they had to do a search, of course, to find this new gentleman who I don't know, of course, but he's got some serious cred on the electronic gaming side. Does Board Game Wire give us any additional insight?
Just a little bit more history on Cynthia Williams. So she joined Funko in early May, chief executive officer, and then Funko had its sale to Goliath, but not really more.
Okay.
So John Haidt, from Blizzard, was the head of World of Warcraft for a very long time. That was his main job over at Blizzard. He also oversaw Diablo 3 on console and computer when it released.
Very interesting. Well, good luck to John in that new role. He's at least taking over the only profitable part of Hasbro, so that's a good thing. Also reported by ICV2, we have that Wizards of the Coast has announced that at GenCon 2024, they will have the D&D 2024 update to the Players Handbook, but there'll only be 3,000 copies. So Corey, with our like
Wow.
tens of listeners, we're probably going to start a huge crush to get the new D&D book. You think so?
I think there's going to be some issues. I think
Yeah.
that lots of people are going to
Yeah.
be very excited to pick this up. This is
Yeah.
the first in the new line of Dungeons and Dragons books, and they've all been dated at this point. We've done news stories of when each of these books is due to come out. So this is an early release for the Player's Handbook. I'll also note that GenCon has released emails with exact instructions of how to go about buying these things. I think it's going to be a ticketed raffle.
Oh,
They do anticipate a lot of people.
yeah. So specifically, this is what they're calling their series, the 50th anniversary series of books. This is the first one, and WotC is going to bring 3,000 copies of the Players Handbook 2024 to Gen Con for collectors and fans to purchase. The Gen Con edition of this book will have a 50th anniversary logo in gold foil on it, as well as a commemorative Gen Con 2024 bookplate. The book will cost
Yeah.
$49.99 at the show plus tax.
So Gen Con has a big long instruction section on how to do this, but the book will come with first release D&D
Mm-hmm.
stamps, US
Mm-hmm.
the US postage stamps. So
There's a whole section here about, listen, this is a great quote. In order to avoid a second Lorcana incident at the show, which is the Lorcana incident that happened last year, WotC and Gen Con will systematically allow the players to reserve their books via that ticketing system, which you just mentioned. And each
Right.
sales day at 7 a.m., fans will be able to claim one digital ticket while supplies last. Oh my God. So they're going to go on sale or, just to get a ticket at that 7 o'clock and then you got to go get it. Oh my God. It's going to be pandemonium. It's going to be crazy.
Well,
I mean,
hopefully they're diverting a lot of the physical pandemonium online, so it's going to turn into just an online raffle.
an online raffle where everyone's clicking, 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 and you might get in and get one of the, well, if they're doing it over the course of 4 days, it's going to be, it's like 750 a day or something like that. It's not going to be a lot. So, okay, our last news story here is about a good friend of both of ours, right? Maggie Clayton.
Yeah.
Maggie Clayton, a good friend of ours, has taken over Kickstarter's new head of games. So that is huge, right? The Kickstarter position, which games are
Yeah.
by far their biggest category, and she's the new head of games. So congratulations to Maggie for this very big position, I think.
Maggie's absolutely incredible. She's spent 3 years at Exploding Kittens as senior sales manager, has absolutely knocked it out of the park. And before that, had worked for a number of board game companies, Greater Than Games. It's she's just an amazing person, so smart, so talented, so good at what she does. So I think this is a big move for Kickstarter, who of course is feeling pressure of Game Found and Backer Kit,
Yep.
not really taking a market share, but at least threatening to be noticeable.
Yeah. Oh, at this point, GameFound is we've talked about this on the show. They've claimed a big market share from Kickstarter because the market was Kickstarter, and then kind of
Yep.
they jumped in and started small, of course, but there's only a market and they've grabbed a share of it. Like they probably have 20% of it now, which is a pretty big stake in the whole thing. So but I think Maggie is going to do a great job here because she is extremely talented. So this is going to be a great move for her and a really good move for Kickstarter as well. Going to give a shout out to also another good friend, Nicole Amato, who works at Kickstarter and is working for Maggie. She's been there even longer. So she is essentially specifically to the board games while Maggie is head of all games. So good luck to both Maggie and Nicole in their positions at Kickstarter. And now, Corey, we need to move on to strategy and tactics. All right. So we have a few here because we're going to be a relatively short show. We should, by the way, mention Ignacy screwed up again, because it's good to be honest. We unravel the industry and sometimes the incompetence of people like being ready to do this with us because he forgot his microphone again or something like that. Corey's being like Switzerland. It's okay. I'm not going to talk about that.
I mean, he did have to wake up early by 4 or 5 in the afternoon over
Yeah,
there just to make the.
it's 3:30 in the afternoon that he has to record, 6:30 in the morning that Corey has to record. So I don't know. And it is a Saturday. He's not really supposed to be working, but anyway. All right, so the first thing we have here is from Conan Daly from Wales. He's at Hexhart, and he asks, when speaking to some other designers about pitching publishers recently, the subject came up about some publishers and reviewers in the US not liking certain themes or symbols about witchcraft, devils, and the occult. There were also some cultural differences in other countries. For example, gun icons in the context of crime being frowned upon in Germany. In the localization of your games in the US, in the EU, or elsewhere, have you encountered any other particular country-specific things that need to be changed or that aren't acceptable when it comes to releasing games that would be fine elsewhere? So, Corey, do you want to? I have some insight on this. Do you want to
I,
mention?
I don't have a ton. I haven't done a whole lot of localization, but what I did find interesting is that a lot of countries have their own rules about what must be denoted on the back of the box. And I've talked to a number of publishers that they have to redesign their back of box to show where exactly the components were made or the local
Mhm.
address or phone number. Like certain legal details have to be on the box for release in certain countries, which I thought was
Mhm.
really
Yeah.
interesting.
Sure, that certainly is a case about, especially in Europe, there's certain things you have to put on. But he's really talking about specifically about themes
Theming.
and icons. Okay. So I have a very recent
Okay.
like this, like in the last few months, anecdote on this one. So should I say who? Yeah, I can say, yeah. So, Freedom and Freeze, good friend of both Corey and I. We see him at the Gathering of Friends every year. And of course, he was a strategic partner to F Spiel, a strategic partner of Stronghold for many years. Great company to work with. He
Hmm.
he said he said to me at the gathering, he goes, "Hey, I got this mafia themed game, and I know you like mafia themed games, and you always have said that there really aren't a lot of good ones. Will you try this?" And I'm like, yeah, of course, I'll try anything. Freeman, you want to play a game with me? Let's do this. So he shows me this mafia themed game, and I'm like, oh, great. So I said, so when's it coming out? I'm assuming he's putting it out. He goes, I can't put this out in Germany. The everybody I talked to in Germany said, no, this theme doesn't sell. I'm like, the mafia doesn't sell in Germany? He goes, no, they said so. I said, he didn't believe that. He thought it would be fine, but he says, no, mafia themes don't sell. Well, his people said that. So I said, can we look at this game to play to Z? And he said, yes. Actually, yeah. And he just gave me the prototype. So Zeb is looking at it to see if we're gonna do it. It'd
That's awesome.
be great to have a Freedom and Freeze game, of course, in the category. And it was
Yeah.
a very good game. It's an area control game. You do a little bit of, you know, whacking people, but that's not the main portion of it.
You say it
You're
so casually.
yeah, you know, you might have to whack a guy once in a while. They can come into your territory. You got to whack this guy. So it's based in the on the five families of New York, and it's got the map of New York as it existed, like in the 1930s or something like that. So it looked really good. The theme was great. It's not gonna be the kind of game where you're getting in and just constantly fighting. You're gonna be controlling areas. Like this is my area for the business, you know. Hey, so um, that's my thing. So yes, but when
There's
you
one other big example that I thought is really interesting lately is Bonanza. Bonanza has been a best-selling game all through Europe. It was Uwe Rosenberg's really first popular game.
yep,
But the theme has never really hit very hard in the US. It's about bean farming, and the
yep,
names of the beans are all these inside puns and
weird,
wordplay
yeah,
in German. So recently, Amigo has rethemed Bonanza for the American market essentially as flowers in a game called Dahlia. So I thought that was an interesting
yeah,
retheme on a classic.
yeah. And just to answer like almost directly at
Oh
Conan's
yeah,
Conan. I don't know how you would want to say that, but to answer him directly, I've never heard of anybody not liking witchcraft, devils, the occult. Like, what was the one that from R&R games? Witchstone, which great game, great Euro game. You know it, Corey. You play Witchstone, right? Have you played?
I'm sorry, you stuttered just in time for me to
Uh,
miss the name of the game.
oh, Witchstone. Isn't that what it's called by R&R
Yeah,
Games?
Witchstar and R&R
Right.
and Reiner Knizia. I've definitely played it and the expansion. Great
Love
game.
love that game. There's witches and the occult. That's what it's all about, really. But
It's yeah, it's a
lightly,
filled feeling,
yeah.
themeless.
You score you score for everything in the game kind of thing. Very
Yeah.
Feldian, I guess, is a good way of putting it. But
Yeah,
I've
but it
never
is a
heard.
Reiner Knizia.
Yes, yeah, which is really interesting, right? It's Reiner and somebody else, and the other
Yes.
gentleman who I can't remember his name might have had a lot of influence in the design. I don't know. I'm just saying, but I don't see those particular things having a problem. But when you pitch a game, I think the general idea here that he was asking, when you pitch a game, you can always have in your back pocket in your head, well, if this theme doesn't work, we can go with this because the mechanics are sound, right? You always put that in the back of your head. Sometimes the theme is the mechanics and it has to work that way. And sometimes if you have an idea of retheming, you can always say to the publisher, if the guns don't work for you, then how about we do it like this? So you can pitch anything to anybody.
Sure.
Occasionally there will be some cultural things and differences. Conan then
Yep.
asks, with UKGE now being bigger than Origins, it certainly is, do you see any other regional or national conventions not in the top 5 knocking one of those big conventions off its pedestal? Either
Hmm.
through a big one getting smaller or a small one growing up quickly. I'd be interested in knowing your opinion, both for just the English language conventions and, if not, Anglophone Anglophone,
Non-Anglophone. Yeah.
non-Anglophone. Oh, and then non-English conventions, I assume he means, right? Well,
Yep.
I assume when he says he's calling top 5, I assume he's doing Essen, GenCon, PAX
Hacks.
Unplugged, UKGE, and Origins. I assume what he means.
Yeah.
Do
Yeah.
we see any other shift? I would say small short answer no. I think PAX is going to continue to grow. They have more space,
Yeah.
and they're in the most densely populated corridor in the world. Certainly in the world of English board gaming, right? The Northeast.
Absolutely.
So that's going to
And
grow.
UKGE definitely is it's right around those in the tens of thousands of people.
Right.
And when I start thinking about local, and unfortunately I know US local way better than I know European local, um, we're talking about less than 10,000 on the biggest local conventions in the US, which would be KublaCon, SaltCon, GrandCon, Geekway to the West. These are the big ones in the US that might be contenders, but they're still an order of magnitude smaller.
Right. And I don't think that anybody's trying. Oh, yeah, and no one's trying really to become another one of these big ones. When PAX Unplugged set up, it was kind of surprising because PAX, all the other PAXs are digital, but they all of a sudden
Yeah,
realized, wow, we have an opportunity here, and they put it in one of the largest cities in America, Philadelphia. It comes in at around 2.5 million people, and of course has the draw of the 8 million people in New York City and several million more just directly below in the Baltimore, Washington area. So that's going to be the big growth one coming up. And by the way, let's give a shout out to Cannes. Well, Cannes, I don't know how to say that. The French convention, if you want a non-Anglophone convention, that's huge. That
yeah.
convention is so big. But if you don't speak English, French. If you don't speak French, you're going to have a problem there. Because that convention happens like only in
Yeah.
French.
And there's AirCon and LyraCon, and there's a lot of big name European conventions, but I think again they are about an order of magnitude
Yeah,
smaller
exactly.
than these big five.
Right. Ann W., good friend of mine, good friend of the show. She's at Ann Skater on BGG, coming off conventions with content creators at Dice Tower East last year. It seems that many are pulling back from participating at booth-based events. The explanation is that the booths are cost prohibitive when you add in the fee for the booth, shipping for retail items, and booth decor, and having people at the booth throughout the whole event. Essentially, since retail sales are not their focus, maybe some stickers and coasters and little things, the sales won't be close enough to cover these expenses. However, people want to see their favorite content creators at events. Personally, I choose events based on where my favorite people are. I think event managers need to look at different models for content creators that are not just a typical booth option. To Stephen and Corey,
Mm,
as content creators, what would be a cool offering that would entice you to officially represent your content brands at an event like Dice Tower or PAX? I can see that a BGI booth would not make sense, but what would?
mm.
Betting this question will not be answered before Dice Tower East 2024. Anne was
You
right.
just
But we
missed it.
just missed it, Anne. Come on. We're
Ah,
doing much better.
that's
We're doing much better. So
I'm doing better. You are the same, but I am elevating the entire
okay.
show.
So
So,
yeah, go
well,
ahead.
specifically for Above Board, we've talked about for a while doing a booth where we basically just show a lot of videos of our stuff and film people coming up to the booth. So having this media center where you both film other people and show upcoming videos is very attractive. But again, the big thing is that for most conventions, not all, but for most conventions, attending is a financial loss. It's should be thought of as advertising or hype. It builds up hype for the company, for the new games, but financially, most people don't
Yeah.
make money attending a convention.
Right. So and that's like everybody. That's even the publishers who've got product to sell. A lot of them don't make
Oh
money doing
yeah.
this. You're waving the flag, as you call it. It's a marketing event. You got to think of it like that in a lot of ways. Of course, you can't lose your shirt because that's not a good thing. But if you can break out even, you've gotten marketing benefit and you've gotten some of the alpha gamers to grab your game, hopefully evangelize it for you moving forward. Now, back to the
Yes.
question that Anne is posing: what would it take for Board Games Insider have a booth? Yeah, we can't. It doesn't make sense. But what we have done in the past, and we do basically every year, is at Essen, we have a meetup, and we at Essen we had the three of us there. It was great, and we got 25 people showed up, something like that, right? And we took pictures, handshake, took questions, just had a fun time with everybody. That kind of event, and I've done them also at like GenCon at least once. That works because you can talk to this audience, right? People that we talk to all the time,
Yeah.
and they can carve out a little of their time to hang out, talk, either have a drink or to
It's
ask some
always
questions.
super fun.
So that's the way that we can do it. There's no real way
And well,
that
there's also
most.
sponsorships. So things that we've talked about with Play to Z are sponsoring things like get-togethers and parties and rooms and things like that, and just getting the logo and the name out there.
Mm-hmm. There you go. So Jacob Stein, who's at Lord Stein, he asks, a conversation I have been having is on campaign games and engagement. I have played through all the pandemic legacies without hesitation. I never made it through Gloomhaven or Clank Legacy. I am curious, what keeps you engaged to finish a campaign slash legacy game? Story, mechanics, art? That's a very interesting question. What will
Yeah.
keep you to do it from the beginning to the end? But he is
Yeah.
asking two separate kind of games. He a campaign game and a legacy game are pretty different games. And a legacy game is usually shorter
Yeah.
and more contained
And they
than a
definitely
campaign.
overlap. So a legacy game could definitely have a campaign and usually do. The few legacy games that have not had a campaign have not done super well, where there have been independent events that are connected in some non-campaign manner. Risk Legacy was the most successful. You can argue that it didn't really have a campaign, and Seafall was the most famously unsuccessful.
Yeah, yeah. With legacy games, once I get the group, and that group could be two or up to five,
Yeah,
up to the maximum player count, we will play the game. It's like it's one of those like unwritten rules of life, of gaming life. If you start a legacy game, you must finish the legacy game unless something happens. And I have a good anecdote on the first legacy game, which you mentioned, Risk Legacy. We started playing, and I was enjoying myself for what it was because you are playing Risk, which is
yeah.
not the greatest game. It's old school. But I was enjoying. I mean, I had South Bonacore on the board. South America became South Bonacore because you can name the continents. Not that I'm giving
Because,
spoiler
yeah.
away, but you. So of course I took it over. I met the conditions or whatever. It became South by. But after about 5 games of the 12, I think you play. Maybe you played more than that. Maybe it's 20 in that.
Mm.
Two of the guys said no. One guy said it first, and the other guy agreed. No, this is the legacy portion is great, is a 10, and the risk portion is a 1. So he just said, I don't want to play this anymore. Another guy agreed, flipped the table. We had to move on. But every other legacy game I started, Pandemic Legacy, Ticket to Ride
Yeah.
Legacy, did that recently, just Paula and I. I've had a great time with, so I will do
So
it.
that's really interesting. Like, continuing with that, for me to start a legacy game and get the momentum going, it really depends on the group. If the group is excited and the group wants to play it, it happens. But scheduling, at least in my world with these legacy games, is a nightmare. It's so hard to find a time for 3 to 4 people to all get together. So I've had things like Gloomhaven, Frosthaven fizzle out because too long goes by where I can't schedule it. But again, in the beginning of the campaign, the first like 3 or 4 games, it's that group and getting that momentum. Once that's settled, oh, it happens. And just like you, I recently started Ticket to Ride Legacy with the family, and they are absolutely into it. They are losing their mind over it.
Oh, that's
So
great.
we played 4 of the games so far,
Who you play?
and
Who you're playing it with?
playing it with my son and my wife.
Oh,
So
that is awesome. Oh, that's
yeah,
very cool.
it's fantastic. There was laughing and screaming, and the reveal on the very first game was good enough that my wife lost her mind and insisted I text Matt Leacock and just tell him how amazing it was.
That reveal, you could just see what's going to happen in the future. It portends to it that interesting new thing that's going to be happening. You don't
So
know
well done.
exactly how it's going
So
to work,
happy.
but I was like,
And again, no
oh,
spoilers,
no
but
spoilers.
I'm not a Ticket to Ride fan. Sorry, Alan. Uh, but Ticket to Ride Legacy is very
Yeah,
amazing. So
it's
far, really good.
yeah, excellent. Glad you're playing it. All right, with that, Corey, let's get over to play testing.
Dun, dun,
So,
dun.
last week, you of course put the question in there. Why don't you read the question, and then we'll find out a couple of great answers that were given to us.
What older title, let's say more than 20 years old, would you say is due for a major update or a second edition?
Very, very cool. And we had some great answers, and there were some overlaps. Another one of the ones that came up a couple of times was Clue, the
Yeah,
great
I found that
museum caper.
interesting.
Paul Owen said that, big friend of the show, as well as Risa K said that. That's this they played this all the time as a kid. They still have a copy. They still play it now and again. It's aged pretty well for a hidden movement one against many game. And Paul actually said it's better than Scotland Yard for stealth and hunting, and everyone gets to play the thief. I have never played Clue Great Museum Caper, but I've heard that it's like one of the best, like just mass market games.
Yeah,
Have you
fantastic.
have you played it?
I have not, but I've heard the same thing. I've heard, there's a short list of mass market games that get the wow, this must be played from the gamer community. And this comes up a lot. Just want to shout out, there was a lovely little discussion of Power Grid as a game that needs a redo. And agreed, Power Grid has the look of most of Friedman's games, which is not the super polished high power art, but it is classic. It looks like a 2F Spiel Friedemann Friese game. It has the same sort of art and design. It is functional above all else. So Andres Silzens has said, Power Grid, is it still one of the best economic games? I've never heard that there's a replacement game for Power Grid. And this was chimed in by friend of the channel, Kirk W., who talked about recent interviews with Friedemann Friese and talking about what could be done with Power Grid. And I agree, Power Grid, some really cool things could happen there, but I just don't know if that's on Friedman's radar.
Yeah, yeah. Oh, but I think this coming year, no, you know what? This year at Essen, it's the 20th anniversary of Power Grid. I think they're releasing new. It could just be an upgraded artwork and stuff like that. I think there's
Sure.
a whole thing going on. He mentioned to me that this like all of his designs had to get pushed back a year because they're kind of re-releasing this older game and all of some of the expansions that were out of print in this.
That's
So
pretty cool.
yeah, another big answer here, which how did I forget this? Magic Realm should be the default
Oh, that came
answer,
up a lot.
says Jay Atkinson, uh, as well as Ron Graves said a second Magic Realm and a Civilization, Advanced Civilization, but that's kind of been done with Mega Civ. I mean, I think that's all been taken care of. But Magic Realm, somebody someday should do that one maybe.
And again, from Kirk W., he shouted out a game I have not heard the name of in ages, which was a favorite of mine. They've invaded Pleasantville. So when TSR was hot and D&D was doing well in the late 70s, early 80s, they started making these little clamshell board games that had paper maps and cutout chits. And the most popular of those was They've Invaded Pleasantville. So I would love to see a redo of this.
Wow.
Just such a bizarre game about taking over people in a little Midwestern town, aliens versus populace. It's a crazy little game.
Does somebody play the aliens or is it kind of the system is the
Yeah,
aliens?
it's a two-player game
That's
where
cool.
I think it's aliens versus villagers.
Oh, okay. So it's two players. So I
So
play the aliens, you play the villagers, and that's pretty
yeah,
interesting.
released in 1981.
Very cool. All right. So Corey, of course, as usual, you have come up with the next week's question. And what is it?
So the new question. Uh, in what year rated titles were released? If you had to pick one year that was the best for the gaming industry, what year would you pick?
So
Uh,
and what?
and
Yeah,
spoiler, I did a little data mining and ran some statistics, which are completely useless because they're statistics.
yeah. Uh, Corey, statistics don't lie. Statisticians do.
This is very, very true.
Uh, I'm actually putting the question in there because I know you're not incapable of doing it. So it's actually posted already.
Yeah,
But before that, let's talk about
I
what
can't use computers.
you're very bad at it. So what do you think, is due for, what is the one that you would pick? Uh, oh, you did it. So you know it. So I can't even ask you this. I have to just come up. So you know the answer.
Well,
Well,
I can sort of
you
comment that there
well,
definitely were waves of, the German
so
invasion,
so
and we love certain years right around the German invasion because those are the nostalgic games that we adore. So,
but I guess we're going based on rating, right? BGG rating is the
sure,
is the
average
sorry,
rating.
right? The average rating of all the games in a given year, which has the highest rated games. And I'm gonna say, so I'm gonna pick, and you can't give the answer, of course, because we'll give the answer next week because we want people to try to guess, or they're gonna cheat and just go take a look like you did. But I'm gonna say it's gonna be absolutely one of the closest years because we're a cult of the new people and we keep adding gamers and they find the new ones first. So I'm going to say that the answer is 2019. And why am I picking that? It's right before COVID and people were playing games like crazy and then they continue playing them during COVID and stuff like that. I could be way off,
Wow.
and I'm probably way off and it's probably like 80th on the list, but okay. That's my guess. Before you did the stats, did you have a thought of where it would be?
Yeah, I definitely thought that there's some of these classic years, like when Agricola came out, when Catan and Carcassonne. I know there's a couple years in there. These waves where you think, wow, there's a lot of great games that year. And I think 19 did come up a couple times.
Oh, there you go. In your
Um,
okay.
I will tell you that straight statistics,
Yep.
newer years always do better than older years,
Yeah, that's just the way it's going to work
almost without exception.
because we've
But there's
added.
corrections that can be done for that.
Yeah. All right. So just now I created a thread on Board Game Geek for you to answer our question. So please go to the guild on Board Game Geek and find our playtesting thread for this question and answer. And maybe we'll talk about it next week. In the meantime, the final scoring. Thank you so much for listening. Help us spread the word about this podcast by telling your friends to download Board Games Insider wherever they like to get their podcasts or watch Board Games Insider on the Podfather of Gaming YouTube channel. You want to be part of this podcast? You can just ask us questions for our strategy and tactics segment or answer our question to you from the playtesting segment in the guild on Board Game Geek. Watch and check out the websites portalgamesus.com, podfathergaming.com, dicetowerdish.com, who's going to rebrand to boardgamedish.com, and play2zgames.com. We
I
are
don't
all
want to
over.
lose all my content, man.
No, man, we'll just redirect Dice Tower Dish right to the new one. And then over time, it just people don't worry about it. I'll help you. I know you don't know anything about computers. We're all over social media, so interact with us, please. On Facebook, please like our pages, which are /BoardGamesInsider, /PortalGamesUS, /PodfatherGaming, and /PlayToZGames. You can speak directly to Ignacy, Corey, Steven on X and Instagram. It's at Portal Games US, at Podfather Gaming, at Dice Tower Dish. We'll change that too. And the very active YouTube channels are Portal Games Studios, the Podfather of Gaming, and Above Board TV. Ignacy is on TikTok, Portal Games US. We'd love to see you in person at an upcoming convention. For me, alone at both WBC and GenCon. Come see me. These two guys will not be there. Sorry. But coming
Yeah,
up,
no Gen Con for me, but
coming up at the WBC. I know a lot of our listeners are there. We'd love to talk to you and just come up, be gaming and hanging out in open gaming. Let's chat. Let's grab a beer. It's a really nice place, the Seven Springs. It's a resort, a skiing resort. So in the summer, it's just a place to have some good food and to have some drinks. And of course, they run the WBC there. So please come up and say hello, and maybe we'll play a game too if it's possible. Board Games Insider is professionally edited by Joshua Bowman from Tabletop Submarine Podcast. If you want your podcast edited by Joshua, you can reach out to him to discuss at tabletopsubmarine@gmail.com. And that great voice you hear doing the intro, the outro, the in-between segments is that of Ray Greenlee, and he can be contacted to do your voiceover work at raygreenleevoiceover.com. Corey, this brings us to the end of another show. What insights, what magic would you like to bring to our listeners right now? And I can see that you know nothing.
I know very, very little. I am working hard to get more timely on Dice Tower Dish. So right now the interview is going up with Ignacy. It's a bit of a dated interview, but I think that's interesting in itself.
I'm going to
But I've
remove
also
all references to Dice Tower Dish going forward from this show until you rebrand it to Board Games Insider Dish, or we can come up with something else if that's too many words. Okay, go ahead. I'm kidding.
And the next one's coming up. I did an interview with Antoine Bauza not that long ago.
Very nice.
I did an interview with Cole Worley. So we'll see those come up in the next, hopefully, few months.
Those are great people to talk to. Everybody out there, thank you so much. We'll see you next week or at a convention coming up soon. Bye-bye.
Bye, everyone.